and experts are warning that this could be more deadly than the COVID-19 pandemic. COVID killed 7 million people and affected billions of others for years. And now, this virus is 50 times more dangerous than COVID. You see, COVID was scary, but from a fatality point of view, only less than 1% of people infected actually died. And even then, it caused 7 million deaths. This new virus has a fatality rate of 56%, meaning it has killed 1 in 2 people who are infected with it. That is why scientists are ringing the alarm bells, trying to get the public's and the government's attention. If this thing gets out of hand, like COVID, if we repeat the mistakes we made during COVID, the consequences could be drastically worse this time around. The worst part is, this virus is spreading already, and it's spreading incredibly quickly. That's why the World Health Organization's chief scientist, Jeremy Farrar, has called this an enormous concern. When comparing this virus to COVID, the numbers are shocking. You see, COVID only infected 10 species. Remember the theory at the start of 2020 that it might have jumped from a bat to a human in a Chinese flea market? Yeah, I know, I called it a theory. Please don't delete my channel, YouTube. I think by now it's at least reasonable to say that it might have been something else. But anyways, this theory came about because we knew that COVID infects bats and it infected humans, plus a few other species. This new virus has already infected 138 species, including humans, and that's a lot. Every new species means the virus is mutating and getting stronger. It's able to beat a lot more immune systems. These mutations and this speed are what's worrying scientists. Let me explain this in just a second, but first, we need to go over the history of the virus. Now, the first question I'm sure everyone is asking is, what is this virus that's so dangerous? Well, the virus is named H5N1, and it's a strain of the influenza A virus. For those who know your viruses, which, in all honesty, I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot of you, considering how much time we had all had during COVID, this virus is the same virus that caused the Spanish flu. And luckily for us, studying the Spanish flu does give us some knowledge on how things may go. What's not so lucky for us is the fact that the virus seems to be following the same footsteps as the Spanish flu, at least so far. Now, the Spanish flu spread during 1918 and 1920, and it killed a record-breaking 100 million people across the world, making it one of the deadliest pandemics in human history. That's more than all pandemics combined in modern history. H5N1 is the newer and quite possibly just as powerful strain of the same virus. Worse yet, the patterns are quite similar in this case. Let's take a closer look. Most pandemics, including Spanish flu and COVID, follow this 3-step pattern from early stages to their peak. The first stage is incubation. Many viruses, much like the one we're seeing now, are not something that just came out of nowhere. Even COVID, or the coronavirus, was nothing new. We've known about them for 2,000 years. It's just that the new strain became something that was novel or new. Similarly, the Spanish flu was not something that just came out of nowhere. This virus was likely around for years before. In fact, studies have shown that less potent variants were already being found in other species years before the Spanish flu became deadly. Then, much like what happened to the coronavirus in 2019, the Spanish flu mutated into
The best way to make money online in 2024 is not with physical products or drop shipping or Amazon. The best way to make money online
a new strain that became so powerful that it infected 1/3 of the world's population and caused 100 million deaths. The same pattern in COVID-19. Once it mutated enough, it infected 700 million people and caused 7 million deaths.
China has identified the cause of the mysterious new virus, coronavirus.
There are fears a rapidly spreading virus has reached Australia.
This is a rapidly emerging situation where there is not a cause for alarm.
And the number of affected countries has tripled.
Now, this new virus, H5N1, has been around since early 1997. It was first found in southern China. Of course, I can't cover a topic on this channel without mentioning China, now can I? It was a novel virus, but it wasn't too deadly. For the longest time, it was only infecting birds and poultry. That is why it was nicknamed the bird flu. In fact, so far it has infected over 90 million chickens in the US alone. A lot of those chickens had to be killed just to make sure this pandemic doesn't turn into an even bigger one. This was clearly a headache. It caused billions of dollars in damages and made life harder for many people. But it was nothing like COVID. At least, not yet. But over the last few years, H5N1 has gotten more active than it has ever been. It is now able to infect 138 different species, including humans like you and me. It's mutating, and it's mutating fast into something that could be much more dangerous than COVID. Once the mutation is over, stage 1, the incubation stage, is complete. Once stage 1 is over, it's almost impossible to stop the spread. Because after the stage, what comes is the tipping point stage. The stage where the virus starts spreading at an exponential rate among humans. So the question is, what kind of mutation does the virus go through? What's the science? Well, viruses are not all dangerous. It's just, we talk a lot about the ones that are. Much like how the vast majority of flights take off and land safely. But if you ever type flight news into Google, the only news stories you will see are the ones where flights crash or almost crash. We have a lot of immunity for a lot of viruses. And in fact, most of us likely have immunity from influenza A viruses as well. Then why is it that scientists are really worried about H5N1, which is a strain of influenza A? Because it's different, unique compared to the past. As a virus infects more and more people, more and more species, it starts learning and getting better, so to speak. With every new species, it gains power points, like in a video game, where now it's able to beat immunities that species already have. It's not an easy process, and more often than not, the virus loses and the immune system wins the fight. In fact, even if a virus is able to mutate into something that's stronger, it doesn't really matter if the human dies, because then the new stronger strain just dies with the human. That's why HWO chief scientist Jeremy Farrar said, "It's a tragic thing to say, but if I get infected with H5N1 and I die, then that's the end of it. But if I go around the community and I spread it to somebody else, then you start the cycle." So no matter how strong the virus gets in an infected human's body, it's not really that scary. As long as it's not transmissible, it's a dead end. It becomes extinct. But if it can become transmissible, it can become a whole different story. Then it can get to a point like COVID, where everyday infection numbers are hitting a new record, and that's extremely scary. Considering this virus has a more than 50% fatality rate, for a virus to become a pandemic, it's important that it learns how to jump from human to human. This is where recent news is troubling the scientific world. Just last month, US officials announced that this virus was found in cattle when cows from 9 different states tested positive. There's some good news and some bad news with these infections. Luckily, it's not deadly for the cows, at least not yet. That's the good news. But the bad news is that now viruses can use cows as effective mixing vessels, meaning 2 different strains can now swap genetic material if they can meet in the same cow. This way they can become stronger and more transmissible. It can learn from other mutations and adopt things that can help it grow more powerful abilities, like being able to transfer between people. This is already happening. It's able to go from cow to cow, which is new and worrisome. It's also able to go back to the birds from cows. And birds can carry it to different herds.
Anyone can invest in property. I bought this large property in the Leith area.
Meaning it will infect more cows and mutate faster. Again, this is the most active the virus has been in the last 2 decades since its discovery. Mutations are completely random, but as it infects more and more mammals, the likelihood for a mutation turning into something that can cause a pandemic only goes up. Right now, only 2 humans have tested positive in the United States, and they only got it because they work at a poultry farm. Based on information we have now, humans can become infected if they come into close contact with infected birds, whether the birds are dead or alive, or with surfaces that may have been contaminated by an infected bird's saliva or feces.